Hi, it's Kristen, and it's another book haul. So these are all books that I got over the course of like 4 months. There's quite a lot of books here, but it was over the beginning of the year and end of last year. So these books are from December 2022 and then January, February, March 2023. So I'm going to start with the books that I got end of last year. So first up we have The Plays of Oscar Wilde by Oscar Wilde. So in here we have Vera, the Duchess of Padua, Salome, Lady Windermere's Fan, A Woman of No Importance, An Ideal Husband, The Importance of Being Earnest, La Sainte Courtisane, and A Florentine Tragedy. So I have read The Importance of Being Earnest and A Woman of No Importance. I read them many years ago when I was doing A-level English, and I really enjoyed them. I really like Oscar Wilde's writing. I think he's very fun, very funny, great satire and humour. So I wanted to read more from him. I wanted to revisit those and then read some more. I have also not read a play in a long time, and I'm a big theatre nerd. Theatre, drama was like what I did when I was younger. It's what I studied all through school. I was in drama clubs. I did plays with my friends when I could. I studied drama and performance at university. And then I finished university and briefly ran a drama club at my work for adults with learning disabilities, and then that stopped because of COVID, and never started it back up. Haven't done anything drama-esque in a long time, and I miss it, so I wanted to buy some plays. So yeah, I'm excited to have this. I also got Cranford and Other Stories by Elizabeth C. Gaskell. I have seen the period drama adaptation of Cranford that was BBC maybe several years ago, and I really liked watching those. And I have read North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell and also watched the adaptation many times. I love North and South, and so I thought I'd try reading Cranford and Other Stories. I'm not sure what the other stories are. We've got Cranford, we've got Mr. Harrison's Confessions, The Doom of the Griffiths, Lois the Witch, Curious If True, 6 Weeks at Heppenheim, and Cousin Phyllis. I only know what Cranford's about, don't know what any of the others are about. Cranford is like a small country town, and it's just about the lives of the people that live there and their intertwining relationships. Let's see what the back says. So it has, as diverse in setting as in subject matter, these tales move from the gentle comedy of life in a small English town, as in Dr. Harrison's Confessions, to atmospheric horror in far northwest Wales in The Doom of the Griffiths. Story of Cousin Phyllis, a tale of love and loss, subtle and complex. But the gripping Lois the Witch recreates the terrors of the Salem witchcraft trials. Ooh. I'm so excited. Whimsically modified fairy tales are set in a French chateau, while an engaging love story poetically evokes peasant life in wine-growing Germany. I'm so excited. I have renewed excitement for this now. I did not know that all the stories were that diverse. I assumed they'd all be in a similar manner to Cranford. I'm not normally huge on short stories, but these all sound quite interesting, and I'd like to learn to like short stories. So maybe I need to go with an author I already like. So yes, that was my next one. Also, I'm trying to get back into reading classics a bit because I've sort of fallen off doing that. Next up, we have a non-fiction, which is We Can Do Better Than This, which is 35 voices of the future of LGBTQ plus rights, and it includes essays from Beth Ditto, Owen Jones, Peppermint, Ollie Alexander, Wolfgang Tillmans, Phil Apoku Gyama, and edited by Amelia Abraham. There's a powerful manifesto on creating a better world for LGBTQ plus people. Most of my nonfiction is feminist and about women, but I wanted to add to that with more diversity, so I've got some recently got and read some nonfiction about being Black and British, and I wanted to add to that with this LGBTQ plus nonfiction. And I always think it's interesting nonfiction when it's essays from different people, because you get different perspectives, different elements of the LGBTQ plus community. Some of the people in here are gay men, lesbian women, trans people, and I'm just excited to hear their opinions on their identities. But it also says they discuss things like inclusive sex education, ending HIV stigma, LGBTQ plus mental health services, imagining a world without gender policing, all that kind of stuff. This was on sale. It was like half price hardback on Blackwell's, so that is why I picked it up, because I'd had it on my wish list for a while and then I saw it on sale, so I thought I will scoop that up. Next up we have some Christmas presents that I received. So first of all, from my lovely friend Jamie, he got me the Marvel book. It says expand your knowledge of a vast comics universe. So this, I think, is just talks about different issues and storylines in the Marvel Comics universe, and talks about different characters, and the groups that have been formed throughout Marvel, characters and their important storylines, where they fall on like the Marvel timelines, and I just found it interesting. I'm a Marvel fan, and this seems like a good one to dip in and out of because of the way it's set up. It is definitely one that you don't read all the way through. You just go pop in and out of it, I would say. It's really lovely illustrations in here, so I'm excited to dip in and out of this one. Next up, from my brother, a very good Christmas gift from him. He got me As You Wish by Kerry Elwes, and this is Kerry Elwes's not a memoir, sort of a memoir. He wrote this with Joe Layden with a foreword by Rob Reiner, just purely about his experience of making The Princess Bride, which is one of my favourite films. It says The Inconceivable Tales from the Making of The Princess Bride. This is just him looking at his role as Wesley, and it's behind the scenes stuff. I think there's some exclusive photographs and little snippets of interviews with Robin Wright, Wallace Shawn, Billy Crystal, Christopher Guest and Mandy Patinkin, as well as William Goldman, who wrote the book and the screenplay. And producers, directors, Norman Lear, Rob Reiner. I'm just so excited to read this because I love The Princess Bride. And by the sounds of it, a lot of the cast and crew also loved making The Princess Bride. So I'm excited to get to this. Lastly, in terms of Christmas gifts, my parents got me this, I think. Although I think my sister told them to get this because I can't imagine my mum just thought this by herself. But it's The World of Critical Role, the history behind the epic fantasy. I really got into Critical Role during lockdowns and became obsessed with it, became obsessed with D&D, made my friends and my sister play D&D with me. And now we all love it. We all love D&D. But I watch a lot of Critical Role, really enjoy it. This, I think, is like behind the scenes stuff and more information from the cast about their characters, about them as voice actors, and the guest actors they had on campaigns. I believe this is campaigns 1 and 2 that they did. So it talks about Vox Machina and the Mighty Nine. Yeah. Next up we have 2 books that I saw in Sainsbury's. Sainsbury's is like my new go-to when books get released because they do them for like cheaper than your average paperback or hardback. They do sales, and so for a total of £7 I got 2 books. I got Electra by Jennifer Saint, which is about Electra, Greek mythology retelling. It's about Electra, Cassandra and Clytemnestra and their relationships with each other, their relationship to men and the men that have maybe wronged them, the men's wars that they get pulled into. I read Ariadne by Jennifer Saint last year and I really enjoyed it. So when I saw this in paperback, I had to get it. So yes, it says, behind all gods and heroes there are great women. The house of Atreus is cursed, a bloodline tainted by a cycle of violence. This is the story of 3 women, their fates doomed by the fickle nature of men and gods. I'm really into Greek mythology. I had to get this. And then I also got Pandora by Susan Stokes Chapman. This is interesting because Pandora is a Greek myth, but this is told set in London 1799. Dora Blake lives with her uncle in what used to be her parents' famed shop of antiques. When a mysterious Greek vase is delivered, Dora is intrigued by her uncle's suspicious behaviour and enlists the help of Edward Lawrence, a young antiquarian scholar. For Edward, the ancient vase is the key to unlocking his professional future. For Dora, it's a chance to restore the shop to its former glory and to escape her nefarious uncle. But what Edward discovers about the vase has Dora questioning everything she has believed about her life, her family, and even the world as she knows it. That just sounds very intriguing to me. I've seen good reviews for this one, so I wanted to pick it up as well. Love my Greek myth retellings. Then these are all ones, these next ones are ones I got in the very last few days of Amazon Smile. I don't like to shop on Amazon, but they used to have a thing called Amazon Smile, which with every purchase they would donate a percentage of your purchase to charity. So I did buy some books that I'd been struggling to find in other places, or that were on sale. So I got Sense and Sensibility, the screenplay and diaries by Emma Thompson. So Emma Thompson, years ago, I think it was like 1995, released an adaptation of Sense and Sensibility, which I love. I've seen it so many times. I love this adaptation. She stars in it. She plays Eleanor Dashwood. Kate Winslet's in it, Alan Rickman, Hugh Grant. It's a great cast. And so this is the screenplay, which I'm very excited about, again, as a drama acting nerd. But it also includes the diaries that she kept at the time, that she wrote while she was writing this, which I thought was really interesting. And she won an Oscar for the Best Adapted Screenplay for this. And I'm just excited to read it. More plays, more screenplays. That's what I'm heading into the rest of the year with. Then we have The Flames of Albion by Jean Mingus. Jean Z. Mingus. This is by Jean Bookish Thoughts on YouTube. She released this last year before. But it's supposed to be cozy fantasy with dragons, and I just thought that sounded really cute. It says, a century since the monarchy was overthrown, the country of Albion has become a haven for its citizens, the young scholar Adara included. Raised within the Albion University wall, she has dedicated her life to the pursuit of knowledge. Preferring to hole up in the library than seek adventure elsewhere, she has grown accustomed to her comfortable routine until the day everything changes. She unwittingly awakens a sleeping dragon's egg. She's thrust into an unfamiliar territory. Never having dreamed of dragons, she is forced to seek out guidance from the exhilarating Isla, last direct descendant of the royal family and companion to a century-old dragon. Together they must navigate the surprises to come, for beyond the prospect of newborn dragon, Albion is about to face a dangerous conspiracy that threatens the peace of their realm. Flames of Albion is a story of friendship, love, and acceptance that celebrates queer identity. Fantasy sold. Queer identity sold. Dragons? Sure, let's do it. I'm very excited to read this. I really like Jean's channel, so I hope I like this book. But I want more fun fantasy, and this sounds like it will be fun fantasy. So yeah, excited to get to this. Then we have a little bit more fantasy. So I picked up Fire and Blood by George R.R. Martin. This is about the Targaryen bloodline, I believe. It's just like a history of the Targaryens. There are illustrations in here, which is pretty cool. I picked this up because later this year I'm going to Croatia on a Trova trip run by Ashley from Frolic Through Fiction. I'll leave her channel linked below. I'm going on a Croatia trip, and we're going to some of the places where they filmed Game of Thrones, especially like King's Landing. And so she picked a sort of book club buddy read that we could do there, and talk about Game of Thrones while in the place they filmed Game of Thrones. Since then, we might be switching the book up because this one is chunky, and I think she said she didn't realise that it was literally just like a historical timeline of the Targaryen family, and there's potentially something else more fun we could go for, which will also be a Game of Thrones book, but one of like the short stories or the shorter side books. But I'm still interested to read this. I need to get back into reading Game of Thrones. I got up to book 3 or 4 and then stopped reading them and haven't read any for years. So I need to get back to that. But this sounded interesting, so I'm glad I have it anyway. Then I have The Assassin's Apprentice, or not just Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. I heard of this series so much, and I thought I'll finally pick it up because this was on sale, so I thought, why not? This is about a boy, I believe, called Fitz. He is a trained assassin. The kingdom that he lives in is on the brink of civil war, and he, to be useful to the crown, is trained as an assassin and to use magic. But there's like warring political factions, and he gets drawn into things that he maybe shouldn't, and so he needs to fight to survive. But it sounded interesting. There's like a whole long series, so if I like it, I've committed myself to a long ride. But I'm excited to get to that. Then we have Beautiful World, Where Are You? We're heading out of fantasy now, by Sally Rooney. I really like Sally Rooney. I have read Conversations with Friends and Normal People, and I liked them both a lot. She is not for everyone, but I like her. This is about Alice, a novelist, who meets someone called Felix, and asks him if he'd like to travel to Rome with her. In Dublin, her best friend Eileen is getting over a breakup and slips back into flirting with Simon, a man she's known since childhood. Alex, Felix, Eileen and Simon are still young, but life is catching up with them. They desire each other, they delude each other, they worry about sex and friendship and the times they live in. Will they find a way to believe in a beautiful world? I think a lot of people's criticisms with Sally Rooney's books is that, like, not a lot happens. It's very much just about the characters and their relationships with each other, while nothing happens. I like that with Sally Rooney. I like the way she writes. People also don't like the way she writes because she doesn't do speech marks or anything like that. But I like it. I like the way she writes. I like the sort of slow nothingness of her books, if that makes sense. They're quite melancholy sometimes. They deal with young people feeling lost in life, and yeah, I like reading about that kind of thing. I think Sally Rooney is a great writer, and I'm excited to get to this one. Next up, we have two romances. I got Hook, Line and Sinker by Tessa Bailey. I have the first one in this series. They're like a companion series about the same family of sisters, I think. I've not read the first one. I've not heard super great things, but I've heard that they're just like fun and silly and a little bit steamy, which, you know, is what I want with these kind of books. I don't need them to be mind-blowing. Sometimes I just want them as a palate cleanser, like between my fantasy. So this one is about a king crab fisherman called Fox. He has a reputation as a sexy, carefree flirt until he meets Hannah Bellinger. She's immune to his charms and good looks, but she seems to enjoy his personality and wants to be friends. Now Hannah's in town for work and crashing in his spare bedroom. And I feel like it's just them living together, living in this town, getting to know each other and falling for each other. And that is all I need in a fun little romance, if I'm being honest. So yeah, we have that. And then I have Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. This is what I've been wanting to read for ages, and I've never been able to find it. It's always been like ridiculously expensive for a paperback, and I don't know why. And then I think it got published more mainstream in the UK, but then it was always sold out whenever I tried to get it, and then I found it. So I picked it up. This is about Chloe Brown. She's chronically ill. It says a chronically ill computer geek with a goal, a plan, and a list. So she creates a list to help her get a life, get out there, get out into the world, do stuff. And she enlists her buildings handyman, I think. Who's called Redford, and he's got tattoos and a motorbike and is a little bit of a rebel, and so she's like, this guy can help me with my list that is somewhat dubious in places. And again, I think they just fall in love along the way. Again, I just want a fun rom-com, and I've heard great things about Talia Hibbert in general, but especially about the Brown sisters trilogy, with Eve and Danny in the other two books. So if I enjoy this, I will definitely pick those up. Okay, we're on to the last section, which is just one author. And that is Tessa Dare. I read Romancing the Duke by Tessa Dare a couple of years ago now. I really enjoyed it. And then I haven't picked up any other Tessa Dare. So I've been buying Tessa Dare books as and when I see them on like various websites, because they're not super easy to get hold of in the UK. So I've got in the Castles Ever After series, which I believe is what Romancing the Duke was the first book in. I think this is the second book. So we've got Say Yes to the Marquess. It says, after 8 years of waiting for Piers Brandon, the wandering Marquess of Granville, to set a wedding date, Cleo Whitmore has had enough. She's inherited a castle, scraped together some pride, and made plans to break her engagement. Not if Rafe Brandon can help it. A ruthless prize fighter and notorious rake, Rafe is determined that Cleo will marry his brother, even if he has to plan the drafted wedding himself. So how does a hardened fighter cure a reluctant bride's cold feet? I think he, whilst trying to get her to marry his brother, he probably ends up falling in love with her. I love a historical romance. I'm a big historical romance fan. I really like Tessa Dare's other books that I read, so I thought I'm in safe hands with her. So I just like bought a ton of Tessa Dare. Next in that series, Castle Ever After, we've got When a Scot Ties the Knot. This says, on the cusp of her first London season, Miss Madeline Gracechurch, shy, pretty and talented, but hopelessly awkward with gentlemen, she was certain to be a dismal failure of the London marriage market. So Maddie did what generations of shy, awkward young ladies have done. She invented a sweetheart, a Scottish sweetheart, one who's handsome, honourable and devoted to her, but conveniently never around. Maddie pours her heart into writing to the imaginary Captain Mackenzie letter after letter, and pretending to be devastated when he's not really killed in battle. She manages to avoid the pressures of London society entirely, until years later, when this kilted Highland lover of her imaginings shows up in the flesh. A real Captain Logan Mackenzie arrives on her doorstep, handsome as anything, but not entirely honourable. He's wounded, jaded, and in possession of her letters, and ready to make good on every promise Maddie never expected to keep. This just sounds silly, and I'm excited. Yeah, I'm sold. Then we have Do You Want to Start Scandal? On the night of the Parkhurst ball, someone had a scandalous tryst in the library. Was it Lord Canby with the maid? Miss Fairchild with a rake? Perhaps the butler did it. All Charlotte Highwood knows is this: it wasn't her. But rumours to the contrary are buzzing. Unless she can discover the lover's true identity, she'll be forced to marry Piers Brandon. Lord Granville. Oh, that's the same guy. It's the same guy as this. The coldest, most arrogantly handsome gentleman she's ever had the misfortune to embrace. When it comes to emotion, the man hasn't got a clue, but as they set about finding mystery lovers, Piers reveals a few secrets of his own. The oh-so-proper Marquess can pick locks, land punches, tease with sly wit, and melt a woman's knees with a single kiss. The only thing he guards more fiercely than Charlotte's safety is the truth about his dark past. Their passion's intense, the danger is real. Soon Charlotte's feeling torn. Will she risk all to prove her innocence, or surrender to a man she's sworn to never love? So these are all like in the same series. I believe these two are purely Castles Ever After, along with Romancing the Duke. And then this one connects the Castles Ever After series to the Spindle Cove series, which are some books I've also got. So these are all, I think, in order. Say Yes to the Marquess, When a Scot Ties the Knot, and then Do You Want to Start a Scandal? And then these next few I've not got the full series of. So we have A Week to be Wicked, which is in the Spindle Cove series, I believe. Minerva Highwood, one of Spindle Cove's confirmed spinsters, needs to be in Scotland. Colin Sandhurst, Lord Payne, a rake of the First Order, needs to be anywhere but Spindle Cove. These unlikely partners have 1 week, fake an elopement, convince family and friends they're in love, outrun armed robbers, survive their worst nightmares, and travel 400 miles without killing each other, all while sharing a very small carriage by day and an even smaller bed by night. What they don't have time for is their growing attraction, much less wild passion, and heaven forbid they spend precious hours bearing their hearts and souls. Suddenly 1 week seems like exactly enough time to find a world of trouble, and maybe, just maybe, everlasting love. I'm here for historical romance drama. Then in the same Spindle Cove series, we have Any Duchess Will Do. What's the Duke to do when the girl who's perfectly wrong becomes the woman he can't live without? Griffin York, the Duke of Halford, has no desire to wed this season, or any season, but his diabolical mother abducts him to Spinster Cove and insists he selects a bride from the ladies in residence. He decides to teach her a lesson by choosing a serving girl. Overworked and struggling, Pauline Sims doesn't dream about dukes. All she wants to do is hang up her barmaid apron and open a bookshop. That dream becomes a possibility when arrogant, sinfully attractive Duke offers her a small fortune for a week's employment. His duties are simple: submit to his mother's Duchess training and fail miserably. But in London, Pauline isn't a miserable failure. She's a brave, quick-witted, beguiling failure, a woman who ignites Griff's desires and soothes the darkness in his soul. Keeping Pauline by his side won't be easy, even if society could accept a duchess, a serving girl duchess. Can a roguish duke convince her to trust him with his heart? And then we have a little novella, a Spindle Cove novella, Lord Dashwood Missed Out. This says, Miss Eleanor Browning grew up yearning for handsome, intelligent Lord next door, but he left England without a word of farewell. One night, inspired by a bit too much sherry, Nora poured her heartbreak on paper. Lord Dashwood Missed Out was a love letter to every young lady who'd been overlooked by a gentleman, and an instant bestseller. Now she's on her way to speak in Spindle Cove. When snowy weather delays her coach, she's forced to wait out the storm with the worst possible companion, Lord Dashwood himself. And he finally seems to have noticed her. George Travers, Lord Dashwood, has travelled the globe as a cartographer. He returns to England with the goal of marrying and creating an heir, only to find his reputation shredded by an audacious, vexingly attractive blue stocking and her poison pen. Lord Dashwood missed out his arse. Since Nora Browning seems to believe he overlooked the passion of a lifetime, Dash challenges her to prove it. She has one night. Again, just fun. I went a little overboard with the Tessadaire, if we're being honest, but I'm excited about all of these. In terms of chronology, Romancing the Duke, which I already own and loved, is the first book in the Castles Ever After series. Say Yes to the Marquess is the second book. When a Scot Ties the Knot is the third book, and Do You Want to Start a Scandal is the fourth book. And then the Spindle Cove series goes A Night to Surrender, which I don't own yet. There's Once Upon a Winter's Eve novella. Then A Week to Be Wicked is book 2. A Lady by Midnight, book 3. Beauty and the Blacksmith novella. Then Any Duchess Will Do is book 4. Lord Dashwood Missed Out is book 4.5. And Do You Want to Start a Scandal is book 5 in the Spindle Cove series. So this is book 4 in Castles Ever After, book 5 in Spindle Cove. So I don't quite know how to read these. Like whether I read these ones, then read the Spindle Cove series, and then finish off with this. Or do I just read these as I have the complete Castles Ever After series and I need to fill gaps with Spindle Cove? Do I do one of these and then a Spindle Cove and then one of these and then a Spindle Cove? I don't quite know. But I'm excited to read more Tessadaire, excited to read more historical fiction, historical romance. I'm just excited. So this is a ton of books. But I got some of them as presents. I got a lot of them on cheap deals on Amazon with Amazon Smile. But now that Amazon Smile is no longer a thing, I just won't be buying from Amazon anymore. I got some of these on World of Books, which I only recently discovered this year. I don't know why I didn't know about it. But they do discounted books. Some of them are like previously, most of them are previously read, so they don't come in like the best condition. So there's like some creases in the spine, pages a bit bent, but like perfectly readable still. Some just like slight discoloration, but others of them have come like absolutely perfect condition. So you never know what you're gonna get, but some of them have been fine. So that is it. That is everything I got in the last 4 months, end of last year, beginning of this year, sort of a quarterly book haul, which doesn't seem as bad as when I used to do monthly book hauls, and it would still be a lot. So yeah, let me know if you've read any of these, what your opinions on them are, particularly if they're positive opinions and encouraging me to get to these faster. Do you have like a particular author that you're collecting books from, like I clearly am now? Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you soon with another video. Bye!